ZombieTech. Welcome to ZombieTech, a forum for engineers, scientists, and inventors to ponder on the technologies needed to survive the inevitable zombie apocalypse.
She's Eddie.
He's Whisker.
And who do we have this week?
We have Lane. Lane of PCB making awesomeness, and we wanted to set the record straight today.
That's who makes the
purple boards.
The hobbyist purple boards that Todic and all the other guys use.
That is correct. Hi, Lane.
Hi, how's it going?
It's all right. So I got a question. I saw on your website that your real name is James, right? James Neal?
I cannot confirm nor deny it. Yes, my name is James Neal.
Gotcha. Okay, but your nickname is Lane Finehack.
Yeah, that's my, the Lane bit is my last name backwards. It turns out that there's another James Neal in Portland who's in the same line of professional work that I'm in, and has in fact had one of the same jobs. Like after I left it, he got hired on.
That's great.
But the thing is he's a little bit of a curmudgeon, and I didn't really want to be associated with him.
Sure.
So I've given up the name, and I'm now Lane.
Gotcha. Well, that works. Does your wife call you Lane as well?
I wish. No, she's not bored. She makes fun of me when I sign my emails Lane as well.
And then where does Finehack come from?
I just thought it was neat. Finehack.
Finehack.
I want to be a curmudgeon when I grow up.
You already are a curmudgeon, Whisker.
Awesome. That was like the easiest life goal ever. They should all be that easy.
Cool. So we know you as Lane, the awesome purple PCB making dude that, I think pretty much everybody goes to, it seems.
Yeah, it's really, there's really just a lot of people in the open hardware world who are now using the purple boards. I originally made them purple just so I could spot them online, and I see them so often now. It's really awesome.
Yeah. Now, is this your day job or?
Oh no.
Okay, so what do you do by day?
I'm a web operations manager for a shoe company.
A shoe company?
Yes.
Oh my gosh! So, like, in other words, if we run out of shoes in the zombie apocalypse, you could hook us up with some awesome cleats or something.
Yeah.
Steel-toed boots.
Wait, if only. I think they're all made in Asia, so we're gonna have a hard time getting a hold of them.
Dang it! So you mean the Asians will, the Chinese will be the ones who survive because they are actually manufacturing the goods?
The running shoes. That's right. I mean, they kind of have there's a shoe gap there.
I think we need to bring this back.
Yeah, they have the shoe manufacturing capabilities, but the population density is also a lot
true.
More unbalanced. So I'm pretty sure that the population density thing outweighs the shoe thing.
I guess that's true.
When you live in an apartment building with 100 million other people, chances are you're not getting out of there if the zombie apocalypse hits.
Not even if you're in the shoe company housing.
Yeah, so all you apartment dwellers, go buy a country house.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but then they'll come in here, and then, instead of acres,
go buy a country house, not in Minnesota.
We need to survive too. So, this PCB making biz is part of Dorkbot PDX. I'm going to admit that I don't actually know what that is.
Oh, Dorkbot PDX. So Dorkbot is a kind of worldwide thing for electronics hobbyists and artists and makers, just to kind of get together. And at least the Portland one, we meet a couple times a month, and we just kind of take over this bar downtown.
And they all get there, and they bring their stuff with them, and then they put birds on it.
Totally, we put a bird on it.
Just put a bird on it.
Come in and put a bird on it. It's just been awesome when that happens. A little bit of Portlandia here in Portland.
Oh, it's the funniest. So is it like since you're saying that you guys take over a bar, I'm guessing it's like a informal quasi hacker space that just
kind of appears a couple times a month. Yeah, that's a good way to picture it. It's really getting to be huge. We've been getting 40 to 50 people.
Wow.
per
Wow.
every meeting, and it really takes over this. It's kind of really more of a bar slash cafe thing.
Sure.
And it is kind of a geek focused place. They have like a gaming space in the back.
Oh,
And
nice. Very
so
nice.
since we're there on a Monday when there's normally nothing else going on, they really appreciate the business, and we really appreciate having this space that we can use just regularly scheduled.
Right.
And that's really a great way to for other like Dorkbot chapters. It just brings so much energy when you can have a regular space to meet and they serve alcohol.
Right. Of course. So so then have you guys ever I'm sure you guys have considered, but getting like a brick and mortar location?
Well, we're really informal.
Mm.
Really, the only bit of organization that we have is that we all meet at this place and
Mm.
occasionally do like workshops and classes. Thankfully,
Still at this bar.
no, the workshops and classes. There's a kind of makerspace called ADX in Portland's Art Design Build, I think, or Art Design ADX Experience. I have no idea. ADX Portland, and they have kind of a tech shop thing going on there. Really cool, and they've been hosting our workshops and classes for free.
Oh,
And
wow. That's
really
very nice of them. Very nice.
Yeah, it's one nice and easy way where if you want to do this sort of thing, there's enough places around that have existing like site insurance policies and that sort of thing that you can sort of be a little bit of a vampire as long as you're not too big.
Mm-hmm. So how did you end up getting quote unquote roped into PCB making?
Well, it started off by getting roped into doing parts orders.
Oh,
And one of these things that we do and to kind of bring energy into the group is we just do a regular Mauser and DigiKey order.
sure.
So everyone kind of says, okay, well, I want 10 atmegas, and another guy goes, I want a few propellers, and then we build on that to get the quantity discounts,
Mm-hmm.
and then distribute it out in every meeting. And we ended up one of us was just had a whole bunch of breakout boards that he had PCB fabbed, and I was like, I wonder if we have enough people in the group designing circuit boards to do a group circuit board order as well, and we all just like once a month or so collect all these designs, put them onto a panel, and get them all manufactured as one big panel.
Right.
Since each of us designing them individually, we each eat this big setup cost that circuit boards have built in.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and you've already got this sort of infrastructure in place where if there is any sort of zombie outbreak in the region, you can just sort of say, okay, we're doing a parts order,
Right.
and everybody that says, I want some mega chips, you just feed them to the zombies.
Okay.
Whisker.
What? They're bait. They're good zombie bait.
That's horrible. They're still making things.
Making good things. We have a lot of at mega hackers in our group who
See?
do really interesting designs.
There you go. Whisker's just
yeah.
propeller partial.
If you're familiar with the Teensy, the USB microcontroller,
Sure. Yeah.
that's a guy who goes to our meetings.
Oh,
Mhm.
cool.
And-
Very cool. So you guys went from doing like
Just parts orders to being able to actually like group together and lay all the boards out into one huge board.
right.
Yeah.
And then send it off and have them manufactured as one thing, and then Lane cuts it up and hands it out to everybody.
Well, so so most of it was actually word of mouth, was it? I mean, because
It's entirely word of mouth. Yeah.
yeah, so then like people are just like, "Oh, yeah." Cuz I mean, okay, it's one thing to say, "All right, I'm going to put together a board and do all the layout whatever for like our group of people." You know, but it's totally another thing to have it completely spider web into where you're allowing people from the web to send
Yeah.
you their designs and then trust that they'll pay you, you know,
Well, there's not much. I mean, there doesn't need to be much trust there. It's all they kind of pay in advance.
Oh, well, that works too.
Right. So it's really them trusting me.
Sure. And so, I mean, like, was there a decision that was made where you said, okay, well, why don't we bring this onto like the Twitterverse and let people send their their things this way to whatever, or is it?
Oh, 1 second. On the
Hmm?
whole trust issue, uh 2 weeks ago, I guess now, a previous ZombieTech guest, Joey Hoodie,
Yeah, few
the
weeks ago.
Secret Service allowed him to
Oh, yeah.
shoot off a marshmallow air cannon in the White House and let the president pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So, I think if other zombie tech guests can be trusted to have, like ballistic devices in the White House, I think you guys are safe with Lane's PCB service.
Well, yeah. No, of course.
He's got
Of
the
course. He's
zombie tech seal of approval.
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank
You do.
I'll put that on my website.
Awesome. So, I mean, like, was there a conscious decision to open it up to everybody else? Or
Kind of. What happened was we we weren't large enough just in our group to sustain it long term.
sure.
We have probably 8 or 9 people in our group who design circuit boards on a regular basis, and probably about 30 who do pretty rarely. And what happened was that people started to mail me from out of town, going, "Hey, can I get in on this?" And it kind of worked out that not only was that good, but it also meant that I could keep doing it because it takes a lot of square inches to put together a panel,
Right.
and our group just wasn't large enough to sustain it.
Right. Now, so at this point, we pretty much tell everybody who we know who wants to make a PCB that your prices are among the cheapest, if not the cheapest, than any of the competitors.
Yeah.
So how do you, for those who don't know, how do you manage that, and how does it work when somebody sends their PCB order to you?
Sure. The main costs in circuit board production are the setup costs, especially for small runs like what we're doing. Go to a fab directly, especially a U.S. fab. Really, the minimum that you can go to them with and say, "Hey, I need a panel." The minimum is going to be like $500-$600.
Oh my God.
And that's gonna be mostly setup costs. Now
Wow.
there are some fabs that specialize in the smaller runs, like Advanced Circuits is a good US fab that has a program that, like, I think it's $33 per circuit board. So but you have to buy like 5 of them. So you're still talking about $150 minimum, and that's like the least that the fab wants to talk to you for.
Right. Right.
So by putting together a bunch of designs, you can split up that big one-time fee, the setup fee, and after that, circuit boards are really cheap. Fiberglass and copper is nothing.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't cost anything. So once you get over that initial setup cost, then it ends up being pretty inexpensive.
Huh. So then how much time, so okay, so everybody sends their orders to you, and do you just take the time to organize them so that they're on the boards properly, or
I have
what?
I'm a bit of a coder, so I wrote a bunch of code to assemble it together.
Oh, okay.
To kind of it's a class of problems called bin packing, of trying to fit a bunch of things in various shapes into an area of a fixed size, and it's a difficult mathematical problem, but it's also one that there are a lot of good approximations, a lot of good algorithms already out there.
Sure, sure.
So I was able
What
to
family of algorithms do you use to attack that thing?
it's kind of a recursive thing. So you take your largest board, you put it on, and you make a rectangle out of the remaining space that it kind of knocked out, and then you put the next largest board in, and then you just keep and you just keep kind of building this recursive. You just keep calling this recursive function with a smaller and smaller panel until no board fits in it, and then you go back out again and do the next rectangle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it ends up being that's actually a pretty efficient way to lay out a panel.
Isn't
And
that kind
it
of like
just does it in one run, or is it sort of a brute force where you have to try a bunch of iterations?
It's a brute force with a lot of iterations. So I typically by the end of at the beginning of a panel, when you only have a few boards, it's very quick. So I add a new board to the panel, and it spits me out a solution, yes or no, in just a couple seconds, and lays it out. By the end of the panel, when there's now hundreds of boards on there, or at least 100, then it starts to take longer and longer, and to the point that at the end, if I really want to fit someone's board on there, and like they're going, oh man, I can't, I really need this fast, then I'll let it chunk away for like 15-20 minutes to see if they can find a solution.
I've actually heard people talk about Lane's board software that he's talking about here in just like hardware hacker conversations. It'll come up every so often. People are like, oh yeah, that Lane guy.
That's great.
Yeah, it's cool because it as a recursive problem, it does lend itself well to parallelizing this process.
Yeah.
So it's something that like I'm working on code to kind of throw up a bunch of Amazon machines just for a minute.
So you can imagine a Beowulf cluster of that.
Absolutely. Right. This would actually not be a bad problem for a Beowulf cluster. As you divide up the panel into smaller chunks, you throw out a bunch of different solutions to a bunch of different possible solutions out to the cluster and test to see if they work.
Does it require any floating point, or is it all integer math?
It could all be integer math.
Well, then we could build a little propeller-based supercomputer to do it for you.
There we go.
So then, okay, so let's see. I think it was was it $5 per square inch? You'll have to correct me.
Yeah, that's right. $5 for a normal weekly run. It's $5 a square inch, and you get 3 copies of the design for that price.
Which is one, amazing. 2, if you're okay, if you're so successful at doing this, and I don't want to give any competitors ideas, why aren't other people doing it?
Well, there are companies doing this. I mean, there's Batch PCB. There's several Chinese fabs that do it.
Yeah, there are a bunch, and there have been a bunch for a really long time. The difference is that the community knows Lane, and we don't know those other guys like personally. You can't go up on Twitter and say, "Hey, dude, what's up?" I mean, Lane is one of the first people that started following us on Twitter when we started up our show.
True.
Because he's from Portland and Jerry's from Portland and, all that sort of thing. But, it's just...
because they're from Portland, they follow us.
Well, people in Portland are pretty damn cool. I mean, we know a lot of people in Portland. We know a lot of people in San Francisco. We know a lot of people in Boston. They're both 3 very cool cities. But, he's just a guy in the community that's doing a lot of good stuff. So obviously people in the know are going to give him their business instead of some of the other folks out there that may have been doing it longer, but they're not personable.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that's kind of true. Also, all the other fabs are all the other really small end fabs like this are all Asian manufacturing, which is perfectly okay. It's just that for a lot of people, that's kind of the deciding factor is they'd rather keep the business in the U.S.
Yeah.
So the fabrication service that you're actually using is U.S. based?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess that would make sense because
there are in a zombie apocalypse, you're going to want your stuff close to home, right? You're going to want your manufacturing as close to you as possible.
Yep.
Very much so.
Now, have you ever considered going into the actual manufacturing portion of it?
No.
No. So
no.
Okay.
I mean, PCB in various ways. I mean, I could picture having like a very quick turn service that all it was like milled PCBs, which wouldn't have like plated holes or anything like that. It would just be I slap a piece of copper into a CNC mill and mount the shape, and then I can mail it off the next day. I could see something like that, but PCB fabrication, especially at the level of quality that an actual fab can do, is a pretty difficult process, and I'm content just being the weird middleman there.
Sure. And so there's actually, well, I mean, I don't know if. All right, I need to stop answering my questions before I ask the questions. So how much effort is there in it for you? Like, does it take up a considerable chunk of time in your day, or? Yeah,
right now it kind of does. It's it used to be that depaneling the boards was really the longest, the hard part, and that takes about probably about 2.5 hours per panel.
Oh wow, okay.
But nowadays, just accepting the orders. As you might know, it's all email based, so people email their orders, and I process them down to the panel, right. Which I've automated down to just like basically just saying username board and having it added to the panel. But
still, I mean, having to get all that. I don't know.
At literally dozens of orders a day, that ends up being a few hours
Yeah.
and hours of time. And I'm just now after spending way too long trying to write the web interface myself. And I've finally said yes, I need help, and gotten some help.
Oh, good, good.
It's good. It's not really scalable if you're just like doing it yourself, because there's a lot of people out there that can really like find this sort of service very handy.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And for the prices, I mean, that's like freaking amazing. And the color.
And just a warning, Addie's
Like,
working on her first board design, which she plans on having go into one of your orders.
Yes.
So, but this is Addie we're talking about, and she does everything the hard way. So that whole like automated process, it's probably going to completely fail in her case, and she's probably going to be like, I don't understand. How do I do this or this and this?
I'm definitely going to keep around the email interface because that is very helpful for people who are real newbies to the process. It is, I think that really attracts a lot of people to it. Is that they send me a board and go, "Is this going to work?"
Right.
And I can take a look at it and go, "Well, yeah, you have this, you have a hole crossing a wire here," or I'll say, or "Oh, you still have the default Eagle outline on there, so this is actually a $65 board instead of a little 2 square inch board."
Oh, sure.
And these are the things that I can that I
It's kind of like a free service almost to it's like well, I shouldn't say that before people start abusing it, but like, because you have to kind of do a little bit of checking up to make sure that their board is appropriate, because whereas some people, they might just print it and say, well, tough cookies, like this is what you sent us.
right.
So you actually take that time to make sure it'll actually work the way they.
I would
Yeah,
imagine
I
Lane
do-
looks at it the way that if you help somebody with their first time, they're going to be back next time, and they're not going to need the help, and they're going to keep using the service.
True.
Yeah, and by and large, people are even absolute newbies do an excellent job. And like Eagle with its defaults and its design rule checker, most of the time you're gonna get at least the board that matches your schematic. Whether or not your schematic is okay, it's one thing definitely,
Right, right.
but it's at least going to match your schematic.
Fair enough.
Now, other than Eagle, what design tools do you recommend people to?
Well, there's pretty much Eagle and KiCad is accounts for 90% of the order. It's Eagle, KiCad, and Altium. It's been really interesting over the watching the popularity of the different CAD packages over the last couple of years. When at the beginning of last year, for example, Eagle was 80%. 80% of the boards that came in were Eagle. And just a few months ago, like at the beginning of this year, KiCad has completely overtaken it.
Yeah, I can see why. A lot of the people who would be interested in your service are interested in the whole open hardware thing, and Eagle is not open.
Right.
So, the ability to use something like KiCad to do that helps you keep your entire process open, which is really nice.
Exactly. And KiCad, having the text, having the board files as text files means that you can keep it under revision control. You can kind of do diffs to see how it's changed over time. It's I think KiCad has a lot of advantages for the open hardware person designing boards. And I mean, will Eagle always be free? We don't know. There's with KiCad, you're at least guaranteed that you'll always be able to open your files.
Right. Right. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So Jason Todick was learning KiCad to try to get away from Eagle a bit, but he's a yellow chicken, and he ran away after convincing me that KiCad was a good idea, and I went and learned KiCad, and now I'm all alone in the wilderness.
Yeah, it's tough, especially if you've already taken the time to learn Eagle. And like for Eagle was my first CAD package, and so as weird of an interface as it is, and how straight out of the '80s this user interface design is. I mean, it's really a bunch of it's like they haven't changed the way that user interface functions to like modern standards. It's normally like you click an action, you click the thing you want to do the action on, And that's usually how it is with user interfaces. And with that, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to group these together. I'm going to click move, and then I'm going to right click and say move the group. Instead of like, okay, well, I've selected someone, I want to move them around. I should just be able to do that. It has a lot of weird interface quirks that just seem unintuitive, but once you've learned it, you're stuck with it.
Right.
This is now how my brain works for circuit design. And I've tried to pick up KiCad, and it's different enough that I have a hard time with it.
Sure. Now, is requests or are requests for board making, do they like ebb and flow with like economics, like at the economy, or like does it change based on what's going on in the world of whatever? Have you ever noticed any patterns between like how often, like how much of an onslaught of requests you get versus what's going on in the world?
Yeah, the biggest factors so far have been Maker Faire.
Oh, sure.
Before the West Coast and East Coast Maker Faire, about a month before, things would spike. And then before around the holidays.
Oh.
Because I a lot of like I had a heart-shaped board just a month or so ago, and various like Christmas boards that were meant to be like Halloween things have been very, very popular. A lot of like blinky eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then are there companies that use your, I mean, Jason Todick, obviously he's a company, but I mean like he's a one-person company. So yeah. I mean like are there sorry, Jason, are there larger companies that, use your service and like take advantage of those low prices?
Yeah, there has been quite a bit of that. Not as many open hardware companies as I thought. Like I was actually really expecting to be like doing all the Lady Ada boards at some point or something like that. But,
right.
No, I mean, I do get a lot of open hardware, the small open hardware companies in my service, and I also get a lot of like larger companies. I've been seeing a lot of strangely like bioinformatics companies.
Oh.
And kind of the DIY bio stuff.
Sure.
PCR boards and things like that.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
that's impressive.
I really love seeing those designs because I mean they're it's like DIY bio stuff is kind of an interest of mine. Not something I've pursued, but
sure,
it's really interesting. So I like to see what they're doing and the sorts of things they work on.
That's really cool. PCR, polymerase chain reaction. It's like all right, I'm gonna. If I get this wrong, she's
gonna go into bio nerd stuff here.
Well, it's just like DNA replication biz.
Yeah, right.
It's really awesome. That's really so freaking cool.
It's actually just a glorified heater in a lot of ways. What the PCR controller is just like okay, it's driving heaters to break apart proteins and have them assemble in certain ways. I guess that's how I understand it.
That's true.
Now, when you guys accidentally make a zombie with this stuff, I'm going to be rather irritated.
If the zombie apocalypse comes, it's definitely going to be due to
bio nerds.
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah.
All right. So you have all these files to these different projects, especially like say the bio projects, right? So in the case of a zombie apocalypse, you have the files that biotech companies are currently using to do things with.
Yeah.
Which means that you and your files and a PCB manufacturing company could theoretically bring back.
A lot of them are going to be using strange parts.
Oh. Well,
yeah, because like a board is just a schematic in
Well, we can just loot them.
But they often have like parts lists and
right.
Exactly.
So you get the bill of materials for the boards too.
Well, they're when they send me an Eagle board, it has that built in, right?
Right. It has all the parts.
And KiCad has all the parts built in.
So you would know. I mean, so do you end up having to sign like NDAs with any of these people?
I've not done that yet. No.
Amazing.
I mean, there's always this. The assumption is that you're going to keep it private.
Right. You're not just going to.
Yeah, and the way that copyright law works, it's theirs. I mean, he's not allowed to make copies.
It's not mine to mine. So.
Yeah, but then if the zombie apocalypse hits, I mean.
Yeah, really. All bets are off. And
all bets.
Exactly. And zombie apocalypse comes and I'm rating this for like, okay, there's a taser board. Here's a board for.
Burn convention, smurn convention. There's a zombie at my door.
Right. Get out the Tesla coil controllers and.
Hey, that's a good lyric right there.
Oh dear.
But that's kind of cool because you're, well, all right. So everybody, you can trust
It's interesting
Lane.
having this library of designs because I would really like to build this into when I have the website up that people can submit their designs and things.
Sure.
I really just want to have a checkbox of share this, and
That's a great idea.
And it's interesting the way that boards build on other boards and kind of the ecosystem of like if I have the Eagle board file, then I can get the parts list from it. I can see like, oh well, your board is very similar to these other boards because they have like the same GPS module. They're both doing barometric measurements or all these things. And I think that would be kind of an interesting thing to see in kind of a community way, how your projects are similar to ones that other people are doing.
That would be huge because that's kind of like how Thingiverse is for, 3D models for the 3D printers.
Yeah.
And so you could have, God, I don't know, Circuitverse, whatever awesome name you come up with to have like something that would become just an amazing resource because then people wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel if they wanted a taser.
Right.
For instance. Or like a PCR. Well, okay, see that they probably wouldn't want to share, but
yeah, those people probably wouldn't. But I've also had these open DIY bio
right.
submit designs and they do want to share and their designs are up. That's
amazing. That is amazing. So what other bio things have you come across, like have been sent your way? If you recall.
Yeah, I don't recall. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But PCR is pretty damn cool. I approve.
People often, what I've seen a couple times is people just use the fact that this is that part of the service is really a milling service to cut things out of PCBs. So somebody made one of these bio companies just submitted a board that just had some holes of the right size for storing their little reagent containers in kind of like a test tube holder made out of circuit board.
Oh, well, that works too, I guess. Huh? For making the anti-zombie virus.
What do you use for depaneling? Do you just do it by hand, or?
Yeah, the fab cuts it out, cuts the boards out, and each board is connected to all the other boards on the panel by little tabs on it. And so for me, depaneling process is pulling the panels out and snapping apart all the boards with my little map on the computer and dumping them in envelopes.
Awesome. That is awesome.
You really should do that CNC milled boards thing. I think I would probably take advantage of that service for the quick turnaround thing.
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty useful one. I really think that more hackerspaces should just offer this as a general thing that they do. Is that for the very quick turn? This is a great way to do it. It has very little environmental impact. It's a very good material. It's very cheap because you can get I have it in my garage from my etching days, a bunch of 6-inch by 11-inch copper clad sheets that ended up being 50 cents a piece.
Oh wow! And
that's 70 square inches of PCB just about, and 66 I guess, and slap one of those into a mill, cut it and load your Gerbers into it, and ta-da! You have a pretty reasonable board.
Right. Huh.
That's something that any hackerspace can do very easily.
Right.
And it would be, I think that would be a great thing.
I find myself over and over again using just the boards that have the 1 millimeter spaced holes with a little circle of copper around each one of them on the back to do all my prototyping, because almost everything I prototype is a one-off. I don't need a manufacturing sort of situation because I'm building it for the studio here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Perf board is. I definitely still use a lot of perf board. I really don't like point-to-point wiring. I have such a hard time with it. I'm just not very good at it.
Whisker just draws with solder.
Oh, really? Like you do traces, kind of?
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll lay things out such that, say you've got a resistor lead, it'll bend over to where it wants to go, and then you just tap a bit of solder here, a bit of solder there, and you've created your own lead from point to point on the back of the board. Yeah. It's fun.
Yep.
Yeah, I was never very good at that. That's another reason I started the service was my etching technique sucked, and I was very bad with perf board.
Well,
Now
that's
Eddie's
okay.
getting into surface mount stuff, and that's a whole different ball game.
I'm gonna see if Jason can do that for me. I am bad enough with normal solder. Surface mount, I think, would just completely be a failure on my
No,
part.
it's surface mount soldering. It definitely has a fear factor associated with it because of how small the parts are.
Yeah.
But like we do surface mount soldering workshops at Dorkbot PDX, and if you're just doing solder paste, like the solder paste and hot plate method is just so easy. It's way easier than doing even through hole.
But then you'd have to have like your stencils and such.
No, you don't. What I do, I mean, I'm kind of crazy about this, but all I do is take a toothpick, dip it into my solder paste, roughly smear it across the pads, and it just so that there's a little bit of solder paste on each pad. Place my parts with a good pair of tweezers. I mean, that's really the only specialized gear you need.
Yeah,
And then I put it on my hot plate, set it to low, watch it very closely,
sure.
and the minute it starts to melt, I pop it off, and that takes a lot less time.
So, for our more just curious drive-by listeners here, could you explain what solder paste is and how it works?
Yeah, solder paste is kind of a liquid metal. It's little beads of solder, little microscopic beads of solder, along with in a mixture of that makes it kind of paste-like, kind of toothpaste-like in consistency, and has some flux, so a little bit of flux in there too, which helps the metal bind to deoxidize the metal so that it will solder will attach to it more readily. And you just kind of like normally you put down like this stencil that only allows a little bit of solder through. It's very much like silk screening,
Hmm.
but you can also just brush it on by hand, and it's just like it's just like applying a little bit of toothpaste to the board, and you just kind of put it roughly on the pads, and there you go.
I think I'll have to look because the one thing I'm most worried about for surface mount is the propeller QFP chip,
Yeah,
and it's like it's just like this little tiny thing, and I'm looking at it right now, and I,
yeah, it is really intimidating.
tiny
Right, it's tiny. Is it? You said it's a QFN or a QFP?
QFP,
Okay, see, so at least there you have access to all the pins. You can
right?
see whether or not there's bridges or anything. But I like me personally, I put on so little solder paste that just barely enough to make the electrical connection.
Mm.
And like if you were to look at it, you just see a few little patches of solder paste on the board. I should really post pictures because like you won't get any bridges, and all you have to do is make sure that the part is aligned right, and that's really the only bit. That's it.
Sure, sure.
When the solder
Now,
melts, it kind of fits into place.
you say the hot plate method. Is that basically just using a typical kitchen hot plate, or are there any modifications necessary to do things that way?
Yeah, exactly. I just picked up a $20 kitchen hot plate from Target, and that's what I use.
Nice.
No modifications. I just set mine to low and then
And bam,
watch it.
Where do
brilliant.
you get your solder paste?
I bought one 10 cubic centimeter cube or tube. I mean, from DigiKey,
Oh,
and I've been using it for over a year.
Yeah, that
It's,
makes
that's
sense
awesome.
considering how minimal you pack it on there. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I waste more just wiping it off the toothpaste than actually gets on the board often. Or toothpick.
So, obviously you're into electronics if you're into PCB making and like the crazy art of surface mount. What are there any projects that you've been working on, or are there any projects that you've completed in the wonderful world of electronics?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of new to the hobby. I had it. I was really interested in it as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
but really that was the extent of it was um, desoldering stuff, and I didn't know about microcontrollers for sure, and programmable electronics. So designing, just kind of laying out passive circuits wasn't very interesting to me.
Sure.
But now that there's like microcontrollers and so easy to get into and all that, it's a lot more fun and interesting as an adult.
Cool.
Yeah, I've done a couple of kind of fun projects. I'm kind of interested in adding senses to oneself.
Hmm.
Like there's I read an article a few years ago about putting on a belt with some vibe motors in it and a GPS.
Mm-hmm.
And what this would do is whenever you kind of change direction, the motor pointing at north would just give a quick little buzz. And so and the person's brain eventually kind of picked up, this is a direction that this is doing. And they started to accept it as a sense and started to not really recognize it. And the part that really fascinated about me was he said that he started to have dreams where he had this acute sense of which way was north.
That's not surprising at all. No, that's right. Exactly.
And so I was like, that's awesome. I want this. And so I got a bunch of these little Soul Robotics disc vibe motors, mounted them into a hat, along with a little SparkFun GPS module and a little Atmel board of my own, and a little compass hat.
Okay.
And so what it does is, it turns out that you can turn if you actually have that vibe against your skull, it'll drive you nuts really fast. It really messes with you. But I found out you can turn that down to the point that it's that you cannot consciously perceive it, and it still works. You still just get enough of it that this tiny little bit that you can still do it, and like you can spin a person around and then stop, and then they can go north is that way, and it works.
Weird. So right now, do you always know where north is?
Well, I never wore it for any length of time because I built it into like this cheap Target cowboy hat and cowboy hat kind of person. So I really need to make version 2 that's in a more stylish hat
with a bird on it.
Right, with a bird on
it. The Portland folks must be so annoyed by now.
Oh yeah.
So
but I think that interface, that directional interface, is something that could be pretty interesting. Like, I really want a way to, in my car, know when there's a car in my blind spot. And,
sure. Yeah.
One of the ways that I thought to do that is have kind of using either the hat, which is a directional haptic interface, to or some sort of like waistband. I have no idea that just kind of, like when a car is in your blind, and the cars around you would just kind of make the motors buzz in the direction that the car is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be really cool. But it seems as though sensing a car at any distance is kind of a difficult problem.
Sure. Well, how are you thinking of doing it? Like what kind of sensor? So obviously the feedback would be the little vibration.
Yeah.
But what kind of sensor were you thinking of utilizing?
Well, that's the hard part, is that ultrasonics are out. You can't use a little ping sensor because at ranges more than about 60 inches. That's worthless. Plus, you're zipping down the road at 60 miles an hour. So
right.
That really knocks that whole thing out. So I guess some sort of like radar system, but that's really expensive.
It'd be almost ham sexy for you to have a radar system in your car.
It would be awesome. I mean, I guess
Joe Grand has the laser rangefinder. That's good for several meters.
Yeah, so it depends on how close of, because I mean your blind spot is like right over your shoulder. Right. So it's what maybe. I
was guessing it would be about 15 to 20 feet.
Really, that much?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's you're going down the road. Each lane is about 8 feet wide. They're not like directly in your blind spot. Plus, I really want more than that. I also want to know how, like, if the car behind me is tailgating me, or how rapidly I'm approaching the car in front of me.
Right.
There's so many Asian girl driver jokes I could make right now, Eddie.
Hey, I drive very well. Thank you very much. Now, okay, so then say we're doing like a zombie blind spotter,
yeah.
Right?
A more difficult problem, actually, because I was thinking that you could kind of do metal detection as one way,
sure.
Right? Zombies, not a high metal content.
No.
Well, unless they're like wearing things, like jeans with belt buckles and
or chainmail.
I
think I would like.
Yes, zombies wearing chainmail.
I think I'd steal a cadaver dog.
Ew.
Because they're already like trained to be able to detect
Yeah, but they gotta sniff hardcore, and if they go sniffing around the zombie, then they get bit, and then now you've got a zombie cadaver dog.
Who you liked because it was your pet dog.
Right. But then the thing is, would a zombie cadaver dog end up sniffing the zombies? Or would its senses be completely turned upside down, and would it start sniffing the real humans?
Ooh.
I think it would
Do you see what I mean?
I think it would pick up zombies at a very, very, very large distance.
Oh. Perhaps.
That's my theory, anyway.
Hey, as long as there's rubble between me and the
Now we're gonna have to
zombie.
find an expert on cadaver dogs to interview.
Ew.
Man, this show is just like an endless rabbit hole.
So, okay. So we've got the car, the blind spot car detector. What other senses are you interested in?
I love the magnetic sensing stuff. So
Yes.
there's this neat project where somebody embedded a tiny little magnet in their fingertip,
I remember hearing about that.
and thus we're able to detect like current running through a power cord.
Right. Now, did they get that infected?
It started to break down. It started to like react with their skin and break down and stuff, and that was a very bad idea. But people have done other things since then. So they've done instead of embedding it into your finger, they kind of make a little notch in their fingernail.
Oh.
And embed it in there and put a little layer of nail polish over it.
Huh.
So now it's still kind of embedded in the finger, but not actually in flesh.
Wow. Okay. So have you done any magnetic experiments with your fingers then?
No. It's just more of an interest than anything I've done.
Fair enough.
But there are so many there's all these senses all these things that you could sense. I mean, just like even Wi-Fi in the area. I think that those T-shirts that do the Wi-Fi sensing.
Oh yeah.
I think that's very interesting. I'd like to have that as. I really like how the brain will just adapt to whatever inputs you give it.
Yeah, the brain is it's sort of maybe counterintuitive to most people, but the brain really doesn't care what's hooked to it.
Exactly. I mean, we have these crazy things called bodies attached to them, and it figured them out from scratch, pretty much.
Yeah, a bit of a chicken and an egg situation there, but yeah, you can hook a lot of things to it, and it's basically going to figure out a way to pipe the data coming in around, right. And once your neocortex builds up the relationship chains, there you go.
Yeah, exactly, and it doesn't seem like it's that difficult for that. It takes that much time to do that.
Interesting. So okay. So your interest. Let's see. So let's list these out. There's the car blind spot detection sensor. There's the magnetic, not in the finger, magnetic sensor. And any other ones that you're considering?
Yeah, not really that I can think of.
Yeah.
So basically, Lane wants to be a cyborg when he grows up.
Totally.
Hey, there are cyborgs currently in society these days. I take care of some.
You do.
I do.
LVAD patients.
I take my smartphone away from me and see how well I function. I'm already stuck.
Well, I guess. I don't know. Would an iPhone be considered as an extra sense?
Pretty much.
Absolutely. It has my location built into it, so I never bother with actually like directions anymore. I just I go where I say where do I want to go, and Siri says, "Here you go. Here's how you get there."
You want to go and give me money.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. If the phone told me to do that, I'd kind of do.
It's called paying your bill. What?
Yeah, I guess.
All right, Lane, we've got a few questions that we like to ask.
Yes.
Every guest here.
Yes. Okay. Wait a minute. I am still very tempted by this zombie sensor thing. How would you detect a zombie?
Methane, I think.
Methane?
The same way the cadaver sniffing dog, right? That's methane that it smells.
Oh.
So it's going to be. I think that would be. And they make cheap methane sensors, right?
Oh. I don't know.
Assuming that they have like the combustible gas thing. It's kind of the same thing that does in a alcohol sensor, an alcohol breath sensor.
Sure.
And if you've got a visual on them, you could always do the IR thing, which is,
see if it's there or not, right? I don't know. Are zombies actively decaying, or are they
Yes,
still?
they are actively decaying.
Okay, well, I don't know. That kind of changes things. I really kind of figured I wouldn't be surviving the zombie apocalypse and should just go with it.
What?
But if they're because death will win, right? Death will win.
Yeah,
So,
but death by natural causes versus
you don't
death
have quitters on this show, Lane.
okay, but so death by natural causes and result, now you just have an old zombie, right? So I mean the zombies would eventually win that.
Right.
So
they'd win out and then they'd get old and then they die and then we'd win out.
See?
Just a matter of
waiting
it out.
Die, but when someone dies, they come back as a zombie.
No. They have
Depends
to be
on if they're infected or not.
Okay. It's this kind of zombie.
You've got different kinds of zombies, but usually the kind that we're talking about on this show here are the
ones where you have to be bit.
All right.
Yeah.
Unmercifulness.
We don't really do that whole I'm a zombie because there was a meteoroid and there's some magic wizard or something like that.
No.
Okay.
We like to base things in science around here.
That's exactly what this is. Discussion of science. So methane detectors, although then that means their smell would precede them. So if
the wind, I mean,
as long as too. Yeah, and as long as people aren't around you aren't farting like an absurd amount.
Oh my god, he's a zombie. No, it's just beans.
I know a few guys that are just absolutely not gonna survive. If that's the case.
It's like Bill Murray in Zombieland.
Methane guided.
Awesome.
All right, folks, stop the farts. Okay, so I will continue on my or I will start my actual zombie tech questions here. What 3 tools would you take to your zombie apocalypse bunker?
What 3 tools would I bring to my zombie apocalypse bunker? I would want. First of all, I'm really hoping my zombie apocalypse bunker is going to be like a public library.
Oh.
I've been
Hey, you sidestepped the book question because you have all the books available.
Yes, I guess I did. I think the downtown Portland library would be an awesome zombie bunker.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Not too many doors?
It has a lot of doors. I mean, it'd have to actively defend it, but
because I was thinking like Library of Congress.
Ah.
Every book ever freaking published.
Yeah. Time enough at last.
Oh, better than those 2 would be the Vatican archives, because that thing is like Fort Knox. It's got climate control. It's got purification systems to keep any outside stuff out of the air.
But it might keep you out. And then
also no science books, right?
Ooh, not touching that one.
Burn.
Oh. Okay, so the 3 tools I would bring I'd really like some a solar power system.
Okay.
I definitely want my soldering iron if I could get it to run off that. Lighting, that's the thing.
No. They have it. It's just in the evidence section. Like Galileo stuff.
There you go.
Okay, I touched it. Moving on.
Yeah, I definitely want my soldering iron, my power. I definitely need power because I'm going to be watching a lot of YouTube in the zombie apocalypse.
Sure. Yep.
I'm guessing.
Why not?
What do you think would be a good way to have power in the Portland area?
Oh yeah, you're right about the solar not really working like that. Yeah, hydro, I guess. Since it's a tall building, therefore I can use the rainwater to do microhydro.
Oh, so actually, you also don't have to worry too much about water purification because you've got
endless
amounts.
Yeah, I just channel it right into the basement.
Nice.
That'd be perfect.
Do you think the zombie flu or virus would be spread through water?
Yes.
Because then if there's a zombie sitting on top of your spigot or your gutter,
that's an awesome visual. I'm a zombie.
That's gross, Eddie.
I'm just thinking, because maybe you have all this water, but there are zombies surrounding it and sitting and playing in it.
Yeah.
It's like a pool party, a zombie pool party.
Zombie pool party. Okay. If this is not a movie yet.
Arg, arg. Okay, so we have your your some form of power supply, whether it be hydro,
I like
hydro.
hydro now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Hydro,
just
well, hydro or solar or both. You
yeah,
know,
may as well have both.
might as well have both. And
Yeah,
then you have your soldering iron,
yeah.
and then what's your third?
Now, are
Um,
you sure you want a soldering iron and not a hot plate? Because, I mean, you can use a hot plate for cooking.
okay, I'll take the hot plate. Good point. I'll take the hot plate. Oh no, you're really not supposed to use the same hot plate for cooking after you've done this.
There's freaking zombies chasing you around. I don't think you're...
Yeah, well, I mean standards, right? It's all about standards. Come on. It's not the end of civilization. It's just the end of civilization.
You know, that's actually a good question. You know, whether or not people would maintain their facade of propriety when a zombie apocalypse hit. You know, would there still be like fine dining with zombies outside, you know, or something like that, or like a zombie zoo, you know, where you can have those dinner theater things. This might just be flight of ideas.
Yeah, when the zombie apocalypse comes, the first thing going out the window are my pants. No pants.
No pants.
No pants, because I mean, if there's no society to keep me dressed.
No pants, zombie.
I've heard of no pants Fridays, but
Yeah, it's just like that.
no
Or
pants every
also known as
day.
working from home.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know this about you, Lane. I didn't know that the
So everybody that's got lane circuit boards, just
Yeah.
Remember
Just
that those
so
were
you know.
de-paneled in boxers.
Well, you don't know if he's a briefs guy, but we won't touch
I'm
that
not
today.
even going there.
I'm sorry, I have to go now.
Okay. So have we done the third tool yet, or have I just been interrupting?
Yeah, I think we did the third tool.
Third tool?
Yeah, I think we already.
Oh, what's the third tool?
I don't recall.
Oh. All right, it's the zombie apocalypse, Lane. You got to get your head on straight.
Okay, well, it's going to be a power tool. It's going to probably be a skill saw because there's so much you can do with a skill saw.
Awesome. What is this, a skill saw?
Oh wait, a skill saw? No, one of the sawzall. Is that what it's-
Sawzall.
Yeah, there we go.
What's a
Think you
skill
can
saw?
cut holes in walls.
Skill saw would be just like a little rotary
Oh, that would be
Oh.
terrible.
saw.
Yeah, that's not useful.
It is, but not nearly as versatile
Not as the sawzall.
as Sawzall can be.
I guess
Yep.
that's true. Okay, so now that you're like, you know, in the bunker or in your library bunker, books aren't really an issue.
Yeah.
What like?
Here's-
Oh, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
I would bring the Practical Electronics for Inventors would be my book.
Okay.
That's it's the same content as like Art of Electronics, but way better for the beginner.
Awesome. That's
And-
probably something I'll have to check out then.
In my 20s, I said, okay, yeah, get into electronics, and I got Art of Electronics, and I opened it up, and it started throwing. This is the equation for how much an op amp will. I'm like, and I closed it, and it took another 10 years before I got back into electronics. So Practical Electronics for Inventors is an awesome book.
I completely understand.
Every single circuit, every single component, it gives the water analogy for.
Oh,
So,
that works.
I really like the water
That's
analogy.
convenient.
Absolutely, and it's so useful. It's like even where it like really had to stretch, like here's an op amp circuit. As a water analogy, it's like even that it worked out. It worked out a way. It's like, yeah, you have like a little water bladder over here that
Right.
it really stretched, but it really did a good job.
What's
Yeah,
funny
that's-
you mentioned
that's
that
cool.
because someone was asking me about the use of Kalman filters, and essentially all it is pulling a signal out of noise, but it's a software thing.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking it's like a filter, like a low pass filter, you know, a simple capacitor, resistor, bam, done.
Yeah.
You know, like hardware, whatever. That I can understand. But I go to, so some of the people they're like, yeah, so look at Kalman filters in Wikipedia. And Wikipedia's got like a crap ton of non-intelligible equations, you know, and I'm like, okay, really? And so
Yeah.
I tried to look through them and be like, all right, I don't understand this. And to this date, I have not gone back to Kalman filters and could care less.
Yeah.
So I completely understand. Okay, I'm trying to think. Are there any other questions? Any questions? because we got the tools, we got the book, which actually very good because I appreciate good analogies.
Yeah.
But I think
Eddie's I think she's done. Awesome.
I think I figured it out. Wait, okay, wait. One more. Sorry. One more.
False alarm.
One more. What would be your ideal defense system for your zombie bunker? Considering how you have a lot of doors.
Something passive so I don't have to work very hard to defend anything.
Okay.
I've always been kind of a fan of ultrasonics. So some sort of crazy ultrasonic zombie melter as well.
Brilliant. Now would that melt humans too?
Yes.
Shit.
No. Why are they coming to my library anyway?
To take over your library.
Exactly.
But what if I want to just borrow a book?
Well, then, books by mail.
Books by mail. Just email Lane, and he'll send it out in an envelope.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll put a purple book cover on it, just so as you know.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
Perfect. Okay, great.
In the apocalypse, we will still have a library to go to. Awesome. I approve.
All right, Lane, where can people find more information about what you do?
pcb.laen.org is the site for my my service there, and soon to be OSHPark, OSHPark.com, I think.
Cool.
And that'll also be where I put my little electronics blog.
Awesome.
But right now, pcb.laen.org.
And he's on Twitter at LAEN.
Yeah.
Right.
He's one of those guys that has a 4-letter Twitter account.
Yeah, I lucked out. I've only met like 2 other people with the Lane name.
Nice. Very nice.
All right, guys, that's it for this week. You can listen to this show every Thursday at ZombieTech.tv. Addie and I do a whole bunch of other things. TV show on YouTube, another podcast about parallax propellers, which is why sometimes we joke about the Atmel guys. But it's all in love. Yeah. You guys can come chat with us every day in our chat room on Afternet. Pound tymkrs. Lane is also in there if you want to ask him some questions.
Correct.
All right, I think that's it for this week. We'll see you guys all next Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.